It's the morning drive.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Drive. I'm your host, Brooks Fiesinger of brooksfiesinger.com and MillionaireWho.com, where we help you stabilize your wallet, secure your future, and succeed in entrepreneurship and finance. Here's my co-host today, Hyundai Sonata. All right, getting on the road today. We are actually going to talk about weight loss. Weight loss. What does this have to do? Then we'll talk about weight loss and how it applies to life and how it applies to finances and whatnot. Now they might seem totally disconnected, but what you're going to find out is that really a lot of these life approaches that we use impact a lot of different areas. It's not just one place. And this is important to point out because, one of the things that I've faced with a lot of students and individuals who've come to me asking for help, say for example, getting a job, is they've said things like, hey, I want to be a accountant, but I have no accounting experience. Of course, you've got to have the degrees and whatnot. But, my answer is if someone asks you about your experience in, say for example, accounting, okay, the absolute worst thing you can ever do is say, I don't have any experience, right? And I can't tell you how many people say to me things like, I want to be an X, but I don't have any experience in X. The reason why I say that's a problem is because if you don't have experience in something, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, And you're sitting there saying, oh, you jerk, maybe I didn't get a golden spoon or silver spoon in my mouth. Nobody gave me the opportunity to do something. Look, okay, if you don't have experience in something, then you're failing to think, right? What's wrong with your head if you don't have experience in something, right? Now, let me explain. I worked with my wife a bit when she was switching careers. She went from education into human resources. And when she went from education to human resources, one of the things we discussed was, okay, so when you're talking to somebody about human resources, what was your experience like in human resources? Well, as a teacher, what has she done? She's, worked with multiple parties. She had to understand students. She had to understand student problems. She had to understand how to work with students and parents and to go, she had to do human resources, right? Yay! So, if you sit here and say you don't have experience in something, it's because you're not thinking, because if you think, you do, right? If you've been nothing but a student, or you've been nothing but a stay-at-home mother, or you've been a teacher, or you've been an accountant, no matter what you've done, you should be able to take experiences in your life and those things that you did in those roles and apply them to other areas. If you can't take the things that you've done in your life and apply them to other areas, then you are missing out on one of the most beneficial things you can get from life, which is an education, right? The school of hard knocks, however you want to spell it. The idea of learning from your life experiences is invaluable, and being able to apply things you learn from one scenario into another scenario is incredibly invaluable. And so again, it doesn't matter that you haven't been an accountant. What can you take from your career as a fast food clerk and convert it into accounting, right? Can you talk about how you've worked with money and you've counted the money and you've understood how people perceive money differently, or how you've worked with people. You should be able to think of a ton of things that you did as a fast food clerk that apply to being an accountant, or a ton of things that you learned as a teacher, did as a teacher, that apply to being a human resources manager, right? No matter what you've done, you need to be able to take those experiences and apply them to other areas. And if you can't, then you're really missing out on success, because once again, education is the most important thing that you can do. That doesn't mean you need a degree in a specific area. I mean, yes, for accounting, you need a degree in accounting. Otherwise, you can't get licensed to do accounting. But, in human resources, you don't need a human resources degree to be excellent at human resources, right? You don't need the human resources degree. Another degree and experience is often substantial enough. So the challenge that you have in life is to make sure everything that happens to you and everything you do isn't wasted. If you go on an off-roading vacation with your family, how does that apply to something else you're doing in life? If you're in class, how does that apply to what you're doing in life? If you sit there and you read books in class and you take tests and you cheat and you do all this kind of stuff just so you can get a piece of paper, right? And then you go on and go get your first job and you're like, gosh, this is completely new. I have 0 things I've ever done in my life that apply to this job. You are failing, right? You are completely failing. So make sure you're applying skills and abilities and capabilities across your life, right? If you have a skill that you've developed in one area, use it in other places. It's not that challenging, right? So start thinking now. Think about how things apply. If you walk into a job interview and tell the person, I have no experience here, you're an idiot. You don't deserve to get a job at all, because clearly you can't think. So stop trying, right? That's the worst thing I've ever heard. And I've heard it. I've had interviews where people have said to me, I really love this field, but I've not done anything that overlaps with it. Nothing? Not on your free time, not on your weekends, not at another job, not in school, nothing? You have 0 knowledge about anything? Right? It's almost humorous in many cases, because I know it's not true, but they don't. And it's not just what you say in an interview, right? It's not just about interviewing. The point is, if you in life can't connect the dots, then you're missing out big time, right? I don't want somebody who can't connect the dots. I don't want somebody who can't learn from their mistakes. I don't want somebody who doesn't understand experiences they came from other places. I don't want somebody who can't, help my organization with or from their things that they've learned, right? I don't want a monkey behind a keyboard. Okay, because most people aren't monkeys behind a keyboard. So don't be a monkey behind a keyboard, right? What can you bring to the table? Well, you bring your experience, you bring the knowledge, you bring the things you've learned, and you apply those. So if you can't do that, start practicing right now. And the way you practice, start thinking about how things connect, right? How does what you're doing right now apply to something else? How does what you've studied apply to what you do for a living? How does working on your car on the weekend apply to accounting? How does going to the store apply to accounting? How does working with your kids apply to human resources? How does take any field and think about everything in your life and think about how do these things connect? Because you're going to find they connect all over the place, right? I can't tell you how often I go to an area, I've done nothing, I've never dealt with the area at all, and yet I'm able to help a lot in that area because I can apply a million other places where similar things have happened, right? Oh, maybe you've never coded software, but you've definitely fixed your car. Well, why don't we use the same approach I took to fix my car to this this programming problem? Wow, that works wonders. Solves the problems, right? How'd you know? From your experience. But it wasn't programming experience. It was from your real life experience. So start learning from the things that happened in real life and apply those kind of things to whatever it is you're doing, right? You need to understand what you're doing, or you need to apply what you've learned to what you're doing so you're not clueless. And if you can't make those connections, then I'd say you are clueless, and therefore I wouldn't want to hire you. But the good news is, if that's you, practice. You'd be amazed what practice can do. Start practicing. I don't think you're born that way. I think that you can definitely practice and figure out how to improve that part of you, the ability to connect things and to learn from things and to apply things in different areas so that you make less mistakes and that you can enhance other things and that you can, make the world a better place. That's what it comes down to, right? Making the world a better place. So definitely do that. Now, this is the kind of the primer when we're talking about education. weight loss. Because again, to me, weight loss has never been a big hurdle, even though I've had to do it a few times. And the reason why I say it's not a big hurdle is because it follows all the same other rules as life. I mean, it's like there's nothing special about weight loss. I would venture to guess if you're overweight, you're also not rich unless you don't care, right? You got that case. Sometimes people, if it's not a priority to you, you don't worry about it. But if you really want to lose weight and you really want to become wealthy, it's the same thing. You pretty much do the same thing, right? If you want to climb the top of Mount Everest, or you want to lose weight, or you want to become wealthy, all the same skills, pretty much the same idea. So, realistically from that front, let's learn from these things and talk about these things. But first we're going to talk about losing the weight. So I did lose over 400 pounds, which is, fairly significant, I have to say. And I lost that 400 pounds in several hundred plus stints. Now, I didn't actually need to lose 400 at once. I know some people do that, but like I mentioned, when you're not paying attention, you don't care, then you don't do it. So, for example, if I don't care about my health for a year, I might gain 80 pounds. But then if I do care about my health for a year, I lose 80 pounds. And that's pretty much been the story of my life in many ways, which, that's not the right way to do it. I need to take care of that all the time. And that's my goal right now, is to stay on top of it so that I'm not being negligent with my health. But, the idea being that 3 times I lost over 100 pounds. So when somebody tells me, they need to lose weight, I've done it. I've done it 3 separate times, completely separate times, different years, different times, different diet plans, right? Everyone's always caught up in the diet plan. So I lost one stint going the low-fat diet, totally low-fat. I lost one stint totally calorie counting, and I did one stint doing the whole keto diet or low-carb diet. So I've done all 3 of these, low-fat, calorie counting, and keto. And frankly, using all of them, I lost the weight without any trouble, right? So I have confidence that they all technically work. Now, I understand a lot of people fail in all of these, right? But the kicker is, it's not the diet, it's the attitude you take to the diet. So, just because, one person lost weight on calorie counting and you didn't, doesn't mean switching the diet is the problem. The problem is changing your thoughts. You got to change the way you look at that. And when you change the way you look at it, then all of a sudden it's going to work. So, my low-fat diet, that took, I said it was a good year, lost over 100 pounds. And what I did there is, once again, I cut out the fats. This was the first one I did. I cut out the fats completely, really just minimized the fats. It wasn't that I allowed myself even a certain amount of fats, it's that in every eating decision, it was minimize the fats. Now, in some ways, I did cut calories as well, because, for example, for breakfast, I said, what's the most minimal fat item I can eat for breakfast? And I end up eating a celery stick, I know that sounds awful, but, once again, when your goal is to minimize fat, then you minimize fat. You do what you're doing, right? So, once again, my goal was to minimize fats, and in minimizing fats, I lost over 100 pounds. And that was nice. That was good. That's what I needed to do at the time. I got myself from being, overweight to getting myself to right where I needed to be. So that worked out quite well. Then, of course, over a couple of years, I packed that weight back on, and then I say, okay, I gotta lose weight again. The second time I went through the stint, I went for more of the calorie counting approach. So I balanced both sides. It was cut as many calories as you could from the intake and burn as many calories as you could in the outtake. And as long as you're, burning way more than you're intaking, you're fine. So I could do either way. On Wednesdays, I went to burger night. We went out and had hamburgers, right? Well, I knew those hamburgers were awful for me and had high calories. So therefore, I had to work out for another half an hour. It's pretty simple, right? So I used, workout machines that told me how many calories I was eating right there on the machine, or burning right there on the machine. So if I sat there and said, hey, I ate 1,000 extra calories today, then I'm sitting there and working off 1,000 calories. Works out quite easily. that was quite convenient of a diet because once again, every day you knew exactly how the numbers were adding up. So therefore, it was pretty easy to lose the weight and get yourself where you needed to be. So, definitely counting calories worked very well, both on the burning the calories and minimizing the intake of calories, and, focusing on both of them. And again, that's probably the one I lost the most. I lost about 150 to 160 pounds just in that one season of that diet approach. Then it took another, 5 years to gain the weight back again, and I had a child and stuff like that, and ruptured a disc in my back, and those kind of things really change your ability to do the kind of stuff that I love to do. I love, going hiking and camping and stuff like that, and those things just really came to an end. So I had tried after the calorie diet to get my life in a way that I could maintain it, but I lost a lot of focus, stopped spending the time on it that I should have spent, and had total lifestyle changes and just let myself kind of go. So then I had to lose over 100 pounds again, which I did the last time using the keto or the low carb diet. And the keto or low carb diet was pretty straightforward. So the idea once again is just minimize carbs, and that's really the main approach I did. I know some people say maximize fats, but if you minimize carbs, at least to me, then I naturally add the fats in, right? So if I can't have a pizza, then I'm going to eat the toppings off of a pizza, and the toppings off of the pizza are high in fat. Therefore, no carbs, high fat, problem solved. So I found it real easy just to literally minimize carbs, and it took care of the rest. And, that worked pretty effectively. If I went to a pizza place, I'd eat the toppings. It actually required less major life changes than some of the other diets because I literally just had, it was literally just, don't eat the bread, right? Like, okay, you go to a restaurant, don't eat the bread, don't get the breaded chicken, don't get, it's easy to make those decisions on the fly, and you don't have to do any calculations, you don't have to do any thoughts, you just look at it and sit there and say, is there carbs in that? If the answer is yes, you don't eat it. If the answer is no, you do. Pretty simple. It was also kind of fun because it's surprisingly easy to diet when bacon and, chicken wings are on the menu. Got to be breadless chicken wings. But when those things are on the menu, things that you just absolutely feel like are awful for you, and you can eat as much as you want. You want a giant steak, eat a giant steak. At least for me personally, that's pretty easy to lose weight when I can do whatever the heck I want. And I just have to minimize stuff that I don't even care about that much. I don't love bread, so it's not a big deal to cut it out. And that might be where the personal side is. If you hate bread, then it's probably easier to do a keto diet, right? If you hate fats, then do a low fat diet. It's probably the easiest way to go about it. So, once again, then I did the keto diet. I lost a ton of weight doing that as well. And then I've got to get to the point now where, and I've been doing an okay job of it, but maintaining it and making sure that I don't go put on those pounds again and then have to diet again, because as you get older, it does become more difficult to lose those pounds and to cut that weight. So, once again, I'm in a good place, but I've done it, right? So if you're sitting there saying, hey, I need to lose 100 pounds, I need to lose 150 pounds, I've done it 3 times. 3 times I've lost over 100 pounds. So I'm confident you can do it. And I'm confident you can do it on any one of those diet plans that I just suggested, right? There's no reason why you can't do a keto diet and lose the weight. There's no reason you can't do calorie counting and lose the weight. There's no reason you can't do low fat and lose the weight, right? No reason. So the kicker with these things is, how do I feel in addition to actually having the weight? And I have to tell you, calorie counting by far put me in the best health situation. So, when I was calorie counting, it forced me to do the workouts in addition to cutting the calories. Therefore, it was a pretty straightforward situation. I was physically fit. I was in great shape. I felt wonderful. I could, climb a mountain. I could go for a run. I ran my 5Ks. I played sports. You could do anything, and you lost the weight, and you felt great. It was really a fantastic, well-rounded approach. The keto diet, I have to say, is the absolute easiest. I barely think about it. So it's like, okay, so when I'm eating, I say, hey, I'm not gonna get the breaded chicken. I'm gonna take the grilled chicken. That's a pretty easy conversation. or I'm not going to get the pizza, or I'm not going to eat the pasta. Those are real easy decisions you can make on the fly. However, even though I lost the weight, it didn't get me in shape. It didn't solve those other problems. So really, the keto diet just solved one little problem, when realistically, there's more to your health than just worrying about how many pounds you put on. So, the keto diet became very easy to cut weight without me thinking about it or worrying about it. And therefore, I lost all the weight, but I'm not really healthy as far as fit is concerned. Now, what that means is, it means I then had to add the fitness as a second project. And what I mean by second project is now I sit and say, okay, I want to be fit, I want to be in shape, therefore I need to work out, right? I need to make sure I'm working out every day. But that was disconnected from the weight loss. The challenge I had with that is, if you disconnect being fit from the weight loss, you get zero reward for the fitness besides feeling a little better. But, feeling a little better, I know everyone's like, oh, I love to work out because I feel great. I don't, right? I mean, I'm like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do. I know that I feel better in general. But man, a half an hour to an hour working out every day stinks. I would rather do anything else. So, again, when you disconnect the workout from the weight loss, it becomes very difficult to lose that weight and maintain a good workout regimen, because it's like two projects instead of one. Where in calorie counting, they're all part of the same project. Now, depending on who you are, that I believe could be very, very challenging, because once again, now you're maintaining two projects and you can slip up on either one of them. If you slip up on the diet and maintain the workouts, you're not gonna lose the weight. If you slip up on the workouts, but you keep on doing the, cut carbs, then you lose the weight, but you don't get fit. Really one of those challenges that you have. So, I would say, depending on who you are, you might find the keto diet easy, like I did. But I also would say that the calorie counting was the best way to do it, was the right way to do it for me. And I think a lot of people find the same thing, because it solves more than just the weight problem. And I know you might be primarily concerned with the weight, but honestly, being in better shape pays off dividends as well. And so once again, when you do the calorie counting, it's gonna force you, because you're looking at both sides of the equation, it's gonna force you to get in better shape. You're gonna feel better about yourself every day. Where again, when you talk about the keto low carb, you don't really feel any better. You just lose the pounds. You look better, but you don't feel any different. You don't feel like you're in shape. You don't feel like you have better, ability to maintain your breath. You can't run a 5K. You can't do that kind of stuff. So therefore, you then have to add that onto your plate as a separate project. Now, another important takeaway from these, though, possibly more important in life, is that you're gonna make mistakes, or you're gonna have a situation where, it's your birthday and somebody bakes you a cake. So you're doing the keto diet, which means you're cutting carbs, and someone bakes you a cake. Are you gonna tell them, I'm sorry, I don't care about your cake because I'm on a keto diet? If you are, you're probably gonna come off as a jerk. And I don't think most people would do that. So they're gonna eat the cake. Then you deal with now I ruined my diet, it's not worth doing it anymore, my diet's over, I failed, blah, 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 blah. And, some people are gonna talk about getting back up on that horse. You gotta get back up on that horse and make it happen again. You gotta get back up on that horse and say, I'm not gonna let one day slip up affect it. But what I find is a lot more effective is to literally break the bond between what you're doing and the results. Okay. The same thing is true about things like checking the scale. Don't check the scale every day. Who cares what the scale says? Literally, who cares? I would say do the diet and don't even have a scale, or go to your doctor's office and do the scale, weigh in when you start and weigh in after like a year. Because the idea is the same thing that affects successful people in life. It's you don't want to work for money. You don't want to do the diet specifically for how many pounds you lose in the end of the day, because then you're going to draw misconnections between your actions and the results, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to try really hard for what happens just tomorrow, and you're not going to be thinking long term, which is really your goal. And really what you need to do is you need to completely break that bond, and you need to sit there and say, I don't care about results, right? And I know this is going to sound crazy. You guys say, I don't care about results. I know if I do these things, then the results will come. So I'm not worrying about that direct connection real time between actions and results. And I know this conflicts with what we talk about in some other areas, but you got to hear me out. It's more a psychological game than anything else. So you have to break that bond between the actions that you're doing and the results that you're getting. You have to know what the right actions are and then trust that the right results will come about from doing those right actions. Okay? So if you know that cutting carbs out completely is going to generate the result that you desire over time, then cut out carbs completely and yeah, right? And that's it. It's scary simple, isn't it? You just cut out the carbs. Period. And watch what happens over time. It sounds crazy simple, and that's because it is, right? The biggest stressful thing about weight loss is so simple that anyone who doesn't do it just doesn't do it, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist. There's no magic pill. There's no magic bullet. There's no magic. No magic of weight loss. You just literally do it, right? So if you're not losing weight, it's because you didn't do it. So, in this case, you cut out the carbs and then you trust that the results will follow. It makes it so easy in life because it's not an overwhelming stressor. You don't have to put a lot of time and energy into it. People are like, how much do you, I'm like, I think about it for 3 seconds when I'm picking out my meals. Right? It doesn't take that much effort. It doesn't take that much thought. It's you set up the process and you follow it. You know what the results are for what the input is. So put the input in, you'll get the results. You don't watch the scale every day. If you watch the scale every day, you're going to fluctuate. You're going to go up 2 pounds one day, down 1 pound, up 2 pounds, down 2 pounds. Right? It's going to drive you mad. Why would you want to drive yourself mad? It literally doesn't make sense. You got to trust the results will be there. And when I see people that check the scale every day, those are the ones that fail because they're not seeing the results that they expect. But when you just trust and you count on, doing the right thing will generate the right outcome, and you're going to get the results for your efforts, when you do that, that's when things work. And that's when the magic happens. And so you just got to do it. You got to trust the results will come when you're doing these weight loss. It said you got to trust that weight will come off. You've got to trust that if you do the right things, you will get the results. And the interesting thing about this in weight loss is it applies. It applies to calorie counting. It applies to low-fat diets. It applies to keto and low carb. Every one of them applies to that. You do the right thing, trust the results will follow. The same lesson applies everywhere else in business, right? So, successful people, they don't count the immediate results from their actions. They know what actions they need to take to get the results that they desire. They have trust that the results will follow the actions eventually. And they'll choose to be paid or get their reward by the results, right? They care about the results, but they break that disconnect between specific action to specific result. If you know you average a 7% return on your investments, then you don't worry about the fact that it went up 1% today, down 7% tomorrow, and then up 11% the next day. You don't worry about that because you know that you get those 7% results over time. So therefore you can invest in that manner and count on getting those results. If you know that putting in the effort into your side hustle will generate more financial freedom, then you don't worry about the fact that you've been working at it for 6 months and you haven't seen that result yet because it takes time, right? And you're not going to get that result right away. A lot of the people who completely fail in the side hustle world are people who sit there and say, hey, I got a new idea every month because, I need $300. I made $300. Oh, I worked on this and I only made $100. I don't care how much you make this month. Who freaking cares? You just worry about this month? Oh, that's a short-sighted life, right? You got more in life to worry about than what happens today. Worry about the long term. Nobody who makes $10 billion a year is worrying about $200 a week or $200 a month. I'm not saying you don't have to worry about cash flow. You do worry about cash flow, but you got to have a big picture view. You got to do the right things to get the results that you expect and not worry about how many dollars actually came in my pocket. Right? The first month that I tried to profitize off of MillionaireWho, which you're watching right now, I made 4 cents. Does that mean I should quit? 4 cents, literally 4 cents. No, it doesn't mean I should quit. First of all, it's not just about the money. It's about helping people. And second, I know I'll make enough money to pay for it, at least, over time, right? I'm not going to become a billionaire off of this. That wasn't the intent. But it's going to pay for itself, and I know it's going to pay for itself. I don't have to worry about the numbers every day to know that's going to happen. You do the right things, and the results are going to follow. And that's true about your diet. That's true about business. It's true about investing. Right? So many people don't want to get into real estate because they sit there and say, I can't make the numbers work on day one. I say, can you make the numbers work on day 30? Can you make the numbers work on year 30? Can you? Because I'm guessing you can. And if you know the results, you know what's going to come out of it, then what's stopping you from doing it? Why don't you do it? Right? Same thing with investing. So many people sit there and say, oh man, what's 7% return? Put $100 in there, I get $7. What do I do with $7? Let's talk long term. That 7% doubles, triples, quadruples in time. You put $100 in, then you keep putting more money in, and then all of a sudden you got $2 million, right? You don't care about $2 million? It's not an exaggeration. The problem is it takes time, and we are so short-sighted. We're like, what happens tomorrow? All I care about is what happens by tomorrow. It's how can I lose 50 pounds in a week? You can Google that. People are like, how do I lose 50 pounds in a week? How much you just don't worry about that? You do the right thing. You cut your fat, you cut your calories, you cut your carbs. You'll lose the weight. You invest money intelligently in the stock market, you'll get your return. You invest in real estate, smart real estate, right? Just throwing money at something doesn't fix it. It's just like saying, cutting, calories at lunch and eating more calories for dinner doesn't solve your problem, right? You got to be smart about it. So, if you buy smart real estate, you buy smart investments, you're going to get the return. Just got to have faith in it, right? You got to count at work that you're going to get rewarded for the efforts that you put in. You've got to count on, that in most areas of your life, that you do the right things and you'll get the right results. And sometimes it doesn't pan out that way, but it does most of the time. And as long as you do that, then you'll keep doing the right things. And when you do the right things, you get the results that you want over time. And that's what we're talking about, right? You got to trust that effort will generate results. Now, you don't get paid for the effort. You've got to count that your effort, your personal effort, is going to generate the results. But don't measure the results too soon, right? Do the right things, and results will happen. That's true in weight loss. That's true in life. That's true in your finances. And like we started this conversation about, you've got to connect the dots. Weight loss and saving for retirement are the same skills. Literally. Creating financial independence and weight loss, same skills. If you in fact, losing weight is good practice for retirement savings. Wow. Crazy thought, right? That losing weight is actually practice for financial strength. It is. The same skills apply. Got to connect those skills, but those same skills apply. All right. Hope you learned something today. Hope that was helpful. I appreciate you taking the time to hear kind of a little bit about that story and how it applies to everything else. Now go out there and make the impossible happen.
Learn more at MillionaireWho.com.
It's the morning drive.